Carrie from The Passionate Home, and I am excited to be here with Christina today from the Reclaimed Heirloom. She has traveled from far away.
Well, for BC, it's far.
It's Sunday, we're here at the store, we're gonna have a bit of a paint party, and she's the master at all the paint, and I'm gonna ask lots of questions, and together we will learn. So welcome, and take it away, Christina.
Excellent. I am super excited, Carrie, because we decided that we wanted to pull together some of the simple finds that you literally can buy at vintage, thrift shops and those kind of things, from ceramics to glass. We're going to do metal, we're going to do terracotta, and I really wanted to demonstrate and have some fun with Carrie and with you guys is all the fun things that we can do with paint. And it's so easy, it's simple, and who doesn't want to bargain when you pay $1 for this stuff? So, it's great to recycle, and I think that's the big advantageous point with the creativeness with chalk paints and making new home decors. So let's get started, and we're going to walk you through all the fun stuff that we're going to do today.
Awesome. Well, you start, because
right.
I'm learning, and I think I challenge Christina to go to the thrift store and make something wonderful out of thrift store finds or things you already have around the house.
So all this stuff on this side, and Carrie wanted to bring in a few of these amazing candlesticks. I didn't find any of those, but with these, I think I spent about $20 for all of this. So we have some glasses, I have metal plates that have some great detail on them, and we're going to really put a lot of emphasis on that. I found a metal clock. And what I've done, just to kind of get the ball rolling, is just taking simple glass like this, I've put base coats. And I've just tried to stick to some neutral tones, but we can get a little bit crazy with this, and that's the fun thing with chalk paint, is the more layers and the more colors and color tones to creating highlights and lowlights, the more fun and the more artistic you can really get into with it. So I'm going to start off with the glass. So I've already painted this, and I've used Country Gray.
Country Gray,
yes. Yeah. So it's more of a neutral, but it does have a gray hue to it. And
do you see green in it at all, or no?
You know what? I think it depends where it is. It's one of those grays that if you put it with a blue, you can feel a blue with it. And like you've mentioned, if you're putting it near something that has a green to it, it is. That's the fun part about gray. It's so neutral but yeah, I can see why when you're putting it with, it could feel that it has a green to it. So all I'm going to do is I've made a tray, and I've just added some more of the neutrals to start. And I thought, instead of getting too into the color just yet, I wanted to show you guys just with some of the simple color palettes of the neutrals, how just creating some layers. And again, we're painting on glass. And I do find that if I let it sit overnight, because I like to get a little bit thick, just to make sure that everything underneath, because even dry to the touch doesn't mean it's dry underneath, depending how thick we go. So we're just going to need little brushes. So we're going to start off with an oval. And I normally will start just with a little bit of dampness in the brush. You don't have to, but it's just for me, because I like to move my paint around quite quickly. So I'm just going to moisten that up. For some reason, I always feel lost when I don't have something I can dap with. I'm always about dapping, so I always have a cloth with me. So starting with that, what I want to do, and this is a very typical flower type vase, and it's got these lines through it. And what I want to do first is I'm just going to lightly streak up some graphite, and it's going to look really ugly. And you're going to be like, what is she doing?
How many coats did you put of Country Gray on that glass vase?
So I put two. But my first coat, I always just put a thin layer, so it's almost my grab layer. And then when I put my second one on, it just kind of evens it out. That's standardly what I'll do with glass. Yeah. So one of the things I've learned when I play with the chalk paints is, believe it or not, when you have a nice solid base, you really don't need very much paint after that. And it can look like you're using lots of paint. You don't. So when you're playing, I always tell people, start with some basic of colors, some of those neutrals, and you can buy the smaller sample sizes when you want to start really playing with your colors. Never feel like you need to buy, tons of paint And a little can go a long way.
So that's like a wash almost, eh?
Sort of. It's how it's going to start, but this is where there are so many fun little things that you can do.
It looks beautiful already.
I feel like we're
Right?
going into an ugly phase right
Oh
off.
my gosh, no.
So what I want to do is it's creating kind of like, think of it as a shadowing. That's what we're wanting to do. We're just wanting to create, and it's going to be very random because this is, kind of think of this as you're building an outfit, so you're starting with your stockings and your undergarments, and you're going to keep building from that, right?
So you're not too concerned about it being solid. You're just getting it on there.
No.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Easy. Okay.
And as you can see, what I want actually, and this is where I'm going to go with it, is I actually wanted to have light and dark tones. That's a big thing, because I'm really, really big about creating things that have a very nostalgic age to it. I love that old European, like I'm out in the middle of France and I'm shopping and I'm looking at all this really eclectic, fun, beautiful age stuff, and that's kind of where I'm veering. And
I think Annie's paint is so great at creating those looks, because you can put it thick, you can make it thin, you can layer it up and create all that cool patina.
No, you're absolutely right. And she also put a lot of knowledge into the types of color she has to create certain looks, and you know what you would predominantly find. So, and the beautiful thing with the chalk paints too is the fact that she doesn't put black pigments in them. So when you want to create those middle tones, you can definitely mix your heart out, and you can pretty much come up with any color you want. So again, this is just random, but you're seeing that I just want those darkers and lighters with this.
So you could even do this on a glass lamp base, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
You could do this at any glass.
Yeah.
Any glass. But when I have texture already built in, whether it's a wood piece or a glass piece, I kind of want to work with that a little bit. So I just want to put a little bit more, and I'm just adding in. So this is just a layer under a layer. And when you start playing with it and you want to go back and add more, go back and add more.
There's really nothing you can do wrong.
No.
Yeah.
No.
It's very artsy.
And do what you're comfortable with. I always tell that when I'm trying to help people understand the art of playing. I will generally use one brush and literally create from either an old plate or paper plates, whatever you have that you can use some paints on and disperse what you have. I like to play and mix with one brush, but if you're more comfortable, and some people are, if you have a few, brushes around, get them out and you can use them individually because you don't want to mix them. But because we're going to be mixing into this, sometimes mixing into here can be helpful as well. So, but again, how you do it, don't be shy. Do not be shy with it. So I'm going to dip into, I used some graphite first, and now I'm actually going to dip into a little bit of Paris gray. And I'm not going to use very much water this time. I'm just going to dap it out a little bit just so I have a nice...
That's Paris gray. Kind of looks like French linen.
Oh, you know what? It is French linen. That is Paris gray. I can't see today.
That's okay.
That's okay. I'm going to use all of these.
You're going to use them anyway.
Yeah. Now,
the stippling.
just a stipple.
Yeah. It's like creating dirt underneath, texture underneath.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love it.
Chalk paint's really self-leveling, I find, and what I actually recently had a conversation about that was really interesting, and I think people sometimes get a little confused, is there is texture that you feel, right? You can feel it, you can see it and feel it, but then there's also a faux texture. And faux texture to me is something that looks three-dimensional, it looks like it has a lot, but when you actually touch it, you're like, wow, it's pretty smooth to the touch. And when you're creating a lot of highlights and lowlights, that's the difference. Is it texture where you feel it, or is it texture because it looks like texture?
I'm always in awe on how much when I watch your videos. Christina has a YouTube channel, if you don't already know, The Reclaimed Heirloom, amazing. how little paint you get and in such an incredible result. Just watching you do that. Even when I'm painting, I'm like, oh, I can't believe how little paint this is. I mean, her paint has got great coverage.
Yes, and that's a beautiful thing when you're dealing with a good quality, thick paint, like chalk paint, is you don't need very much.
So you can see how she's just random. There's no pattern. So really let your creative
really going
juices.
On a whim. I really am.
Fingers crossed.
I'm always envious of small children because they can grab anything.
Right? I was just thinking
and then
that.
they just go into this world. And if you can literally go back in time and remember doing that when you got new toys for Christmas and you just start playing, you almost have to think, I'm not worried about an outcome. I'm worried about having the fun of seeing what I'm going to do and what it does. Because whatever you don't like, you can fix it.
This is very therapeutic too, I think, when you make the time to sit and be creative. Even if you think, oh, I can't, I'm not creative, really? You can do this.
Yep. I think everybody is creative.
Yeah.
It's more of understanding your creativity. Like I personally am not a home decor. Like I can't put something together and make it look like it's rhythmic, kind of like.
Really, look at your just samples. All those colors, they all go together.
I guess when it comes to like interior design, I'm scared.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, I'm not good at it. I'm not good at it, right? So you put yourself into that category rather than, but when I play with colors, I like not to think about it. I just do it.
All right, so that's French linen.
So
you've done graphite and French linen.
Now, and again, this
pretty, just like
you can use a few different brushes if you want. I will generally just wipe off what I have and dip into my next. So I'm gonna actually put some Versailles, and I'm gonna do the same thing again.
So just if you notice how little paint Christine is using, you could just do this with the paint you have left over. If you already have chalk paint at home and you have 3 random colors, this is a project you could do with just like what's left on the lid of your paint.
I'll be honest, a lot of my tutorials, it's, I try to get up close and personal to what I'm painting, but that's what I'm doing. I'm literally opening the can and I will only use what's on the lid.
Will you wax this when it's finished?
So, you know what? It really depends what you're going to be using it for. Sometimes I like that chalky look where it's not waxed. Like I like the softness it has. But if you did wax it, you are going to kind of enhance the color a little bit more because you're moisturizing it.
So if you were going to put flowers in this and always get it wet, you would definitely want to wax this or lacquer it or something.
Oh,
but
absolutely.
Even if you don't wax it, over time the chalk paint does cure and it's harder to come off. Like you'd have to really scrub.
Yeah.
So
I painted my bathroom floor 6 years ago. Like the tiles was straight old white chalk paint. And don't ask me why, but I never lacquered. I never did anything. It's still immaculate today.
What kind of tile? Like, did it absorb in?
So
like
that's
porous?
actually a perfect question because it's actually it's a textured tile.
That's why.
It had something to sit in.
Yeah.
But I am amazed because between myself, 2 dogs, my husband, over 6 years, I'm like, seriously, there's not anything scratched or anything.
Oh, it didn't wear at all on any high points?
No. So, but this bathroom is just a soaking tub.
Yeah.
It's got a toilet and a small sink in it. It's not like one of those full utility bathrooms with the showers and, and obviously it's just the 2 of us. But what I'm saying, for 6 years and not even a scratch, that's pretty impressive. I actually meant to go back and seal it. I just never did.
That's okay.
I'm actually going to go and stencil it and then seal it. But I'm notorious for having lots and lots of projects.
No doubt we'll see that later. So this is Versailles. You're putting all over it now, right?
I like Versailles because it's just got this little hue, just kind of like that mint, not mint, but almost like an olivey green, yellow.
Looks like concrete now.
It does. Again, I have no plan for this. I'm just kind of feeling it out.
You could make a whole collection of glass items from the thrift store or from, you know, look in your own kitchen cupboards and paint them coordinating colors like Christina's done here to create a whole mantle for a season or, you know, like a whole display. I think it would be beautiful.
No,
and it all coordinates. So this is pure white you're using?
I'm just going to use pure white.
So when do you know to stop?
I usually don't. Honestly, when you paint and you really get into it a lot of times, you always, you know, so what I try to do is I look at something and I think, okay, well, it's time for some coffee, so I'll stop. And then I come back and I generally will, you know, leave it alone at that point.
Yeah.
But don't ever feel like you have to stop.
You can also, so we've been painting here for 16 minutes. And Christina hasn't let it dry in between, really. I mean, this does dry really quickly.
Yes.
But so it can take. I mean, you don't have to do with that many colors. You could just use 2 colors or 3 colors. But you could see every color she's adding is just creating depth and interest to it. There's no rules. Annie would love this. She loves people to be creative.
I'm almost wanting to use the white as this powdery touch, kind of like what you would see in stone. And because you have the ripple of the natural glass, the way it was already originally made, and
oh, I see, like almost like a porous look, like you're creating that. Oh,
exactly. And let's say you're moving along, and I've done it where I've kind of made a big boo-boo where I've used too much. Just go back to the other colors you started with and mask over it and rebuild back where you were going. So I like to put a lot of emphasis in any of my tutorials how you can correct things, because anything is correctable. Don't ever feel like, oh, you know.
You see, she's using a real dry brush too. She's even dampening, wiping it off so that when the brush first hits the glass, you don't get a big, thick, goopy, you know, it's all evenly dispersed. Yes. That makes sense?
It is. I could actually use this. These things are really handy because they're so easy to clean. Annie's
Mix Max, yeah.
And then you don't have to keep, you know, throwing away.
Yeah, reusable. And it's got actually Annie's color wheel, lots of information on it.
I've actually learned a lot. She has the color wheel in that colorist. And one question I actually get a lot of sometimes is, how do you know what colors to paint?
Yeah.
And you know what? I don't. It's almost a mood half of the time. Do I want to get colorful? Do I want to get, you know, am I kind of in a moody kind of frame of mind? So I want to go a little bit, you know, on the darker sides.
Does furniture speak to you though? Like when you look at it, can you see it in your mind's eye? It should be green.
Absolutely. That's almost, you know, 9 times out of 10 what I do, unless it's for a specific, you know, say it's for somebody or it's you know, but you almost look at furniture like when you're going shopping for clothes. Okay, I have an event, so I need a certain outfit, right? So am I going for something that's more conservative? Am I going a little bit more punchy and loud and fun? So, you know, and then I don't know if this, I hope it sounds the same way I'm thinking, but it's almost like you have to look at the curves of a furniture to what you think is going to suit it. Does this look good in polka dots?
Yeah.
Probably not. Yeah. It's too fat.
The lines of it. If is it really farmhouse? Is it elegant? Is
exactly. What are the curves of the furniture? You know, what could I accentuate about what it is? And if it doesn't, which is, you know, one thing I find I get a lot of is furniture that has basically no curves at all. They're just sticks and they're flat and there's nothing to it. There's no wood details. what could I do with the paint? to
You know
give it
what? That is such a good question. I'm going to close this video off at the moment for us. I want to talk about that though, maybe in another video, Christina, about
Absolutely.
pieces that are boring and flat. I'm going to show a photo of this finished, and I don't know about you, but I've learned a lot. So I'm going to show what this looks like afterwards, and hopefully we have inspired you today to paint some glass with your chalk paint and create a beautiful life. Have a great day.